Hello friends, and welcome to the first tutorial in the Hearthside Comforts Come Stitch With Me Club. I'm very glad you're joining me, and I look forward to learning to knit and crochet and possibly do other projects with you as well. I'm going to show you today how to make this knitted dishcloth. The pattern is available in the group, and I am going to knit one in real time for you today. I'm also going to do it very small so that I can get through the whole thing in a video that's not too long. So I will get started by showing you what tools you need. First of all, you need cotton yarn. I don't think the brand matters as long as it's 100% cotton. I use this Lily Sugar and Cream. I've had this particular skein for several years. I just had it on hand, and when I decided to do this project, I put it out and started using it. I got it at Hobby Lobby, and it was $2.29. I probably got it on sale too, but anyway, just wanted to let you know that this is what I use. I like to use circular needles, but this is not required for this project. Straight needles work also if that's what you have available. And you'll need a pair of scissors, and you'll need a tapestry needle to weave in the ends. So let's get started. Okay, the first thing we need to do is to make a knot. So I do this by wrapping the yarn around my fingers like this and then pulling through a knot like this. As you can see, that's far too big, but I can then slide it to fit on my needle. So I just hold my needle and slide until it's snug. The first method I'm going to show you is called the long tail cast on method. So you don't get discouraged. The first time I saw this method, I didn't think I would ever catch on, but I'll show you, and hopefully you can practice it again and again. So you take, once you have the knot and the first stitch on the needle, you take your hands, make sure that your working yarn, which is attached to your ball of yarn, is in the back, and your loose end is in the front, the tail is in the front. Put your fingers through, make a little tent, okay? So what you do is you put your finger through and you grab on, put your thumb through, and now you can see, looking on it as though you're looking from the side, this is what it looks like. So I have the tail at the bottom, held between these three fingers, and I have it held like this. Next, I bring my one knitting needle through, and I wrap the yarn through the first loop, and then I go back and catch the back loop, pull it through that hole there, and pull it tight. And now I have 2 stitches cast on. So I will do this again. Make my tent, holding the tail in my fingers, have it wrapped around my thumb and this finger like this. I come forward, catch this yarn here like that, take it around the back and pull it up through, and I let go with my thumb and pull the strings tight with the other fingers. One more time. Wrap the yarn around this way, go to the back, pull it through, and let go with my thumb. Now, those are the only stitches that I need for this project. I'm also going to show you how to knit on your cast on. So I'm going to show you 2 different methods. So that was the long tail cast on. So if the long tail cast on method seemed difficult to you and you couldn't catch on, try this method. Either way is fine. So in this method, I would make my knot the same way, except this time I would be holding the needle in my left hand. I would use the second needle this time. I would come and put this needle through. So in this case, I wouldn't have wanted that first stitch to be on there so tightly, because I have to have room to get both needles through. I take the string and I wrap it around the back needle. So you can see I have the first stitch on here. I have this, I keep calling it string, yarn around the back needle, so you can see how it looks like this. And I bring it through. Now I hold this needle and I pull this needle back, take this, wrap it around and put it on my needle and pull the other needle out. Now I have 2 stitches. So again, I put my right hand needle through the loop on the needle, through the stitch on the needle, take my working yarn in my right hand, wrap it around the back, pull it between the needles, you can see there. Then I take my needle, right needle, slide it down, come through, pull this over, and you kind of twist and put that on, pull it through. Again, right needle through, wrap yarn around, pull right needle down, pull yarn through, wrap the yarn around, release the right needle, and pull it through. So here again, I have 4 cast on stitches. Use whichever method works best for you for this project. Okay, so now we have 4 stitches cast on. The pattern is now, row 1 is to knit 4. So just like with the casting on, we put the needle through the stitch. You take this yarn, and it doesn't really matter how you have it wrapped on your right hand. Because I learned to crochet first, have a tendency to kind of wrap my yarn like I do when I'm crocheting. I've seen people just take it and throw it over. Whatever works for you, whatever makes it more comfortable. I like it wrapped around my fingers so I can control the tension a little bit better. So wrap the yarn around, pull the needle through, and then instead of putting it back on the left needle like we were doing in cast on, we slide it off the left needle and transfer it to the right. So again, put your needle through. This is called the knit stitch. So you put your needle through the stitch on the left, wrap yarn around the right needle, take the right needle, pull it through, and push the stitch off. So now you have 2 stitches on the right, 2 stitches on the left. Put the right needle through the 3rd stitch on the left needle, wrap your yarn around, pull it through, and take the stitch off. Put your right needle through the stitch on the left, wrap the yarn around, and pull the needle through. So now you have row 1 completed. We had everything on the right needle, so we just simply transfer the needle to our left hand. Make sure that we untangle the yarn. So I'm starting again. Put my needle through, wrap the yarn around, pull the needle forward, slide the stitch off. Needle through the front, to back, wrap around, pull it through. This pattern is knit 2, yarn over, knit. So to do a yarn over, it's very simple. You just put the yarn around and knit. Don't wrap it more than that. Just simply put the yarn around. Basically, it's just bringing the yarn forward and then continuing to knit. All right, so I finished that row. I'm transferring what was on my right needle to my left hand, starting the next row. Now in the pattern, this is still considered row 2. It's row 2 until we get to the diagonal middle of the washcloth. What we're doing is knitting. We're starting in one corner and we're knitting until we get to the widest part of the triangle, and then we decrease. So we increase and then we decrease to this corner. So if it starts to look a little strange to you and you think this does not look like a square, That's because it's not. We're knitting 2 triangles, basically, increasing and then decreasing. So here we start again. I have the stitches on my left needle, put the needle through, wrap the yarn around, pull the stitch off, wrap the yarn around, pull the stitch off, wrap the yarn around the back of the right needle, just pull it between the needles and continue knitting. Okay, we now have 6 stitches on our needle. Transfer the needles one hand to the other, starting again. Now I'm going to tell you, it's really easy to mess up by seeing these 2 here and thinking they're both stitches, and they're not. They're actually the bottom loop, like that. So what you have to do when you start a row, make sure that you kind of put those in their place and make sure you're catching the proper spot with your yarn. And you see here, I need to start that over because this yarn is kind of wrapped around the bottom here. So you always want to make sure that your working yarn is out of the way. Come through, knit 2, yarn over, knit. And that row is finished. So we'll turn this around, start over. Again, you see that's kind of loose on the end. So we start knitting, knit 2. And usually when I knit my second stitch, I kind of try to pull everything tight before going on. Then I do a yarn over, knit to the end of the row. Now when we do the yarn over, what it's doing is it's adding a stitch in the row, and it also creates a little hole that you see. So when you come to it, you'll see that it looks different than the other stitches. It's kind of loose. And so we go like this and wrap it around and just knit the yarn over stitch from the previous row, just like it's a regular stitch. And so we're knitting like this. So that was knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row. Knit 2, yarn over, knit to the end of the row. And you can can see the pattern is starting to take shape. You can see the edge of the dishcloth here with the inner row, the circle there of the holes, and then the knitted. And when you're just knitting back and forth with every row, it's called a garter stitch. And it will make it so that the dishcloth looks the same on both sides. There are different kinds of stitches that you can use that make it more flat on one side, called a stockinette stitch, but we'll get to all of that someday. First thing is just learn your simple knit stitch. So I'm going to knit 2 again. Yarn over, knit to the end of the row. All right, for sake of time, I'm going to stop increasing there. I think you can see how the pattern is forming. I have 2, 4, 6, 8, I have 11 stitches. I will knit 1 more, so I have an even 12. I don't think it really matters, but just knit 1 more row, and then I'll start decreasing so that you can see how that is done. I want to show you how to do the entire project in this tutorial. So I'm just going to go through this pretty fast. Right, so in the pattern we will start this next row when we've reached at least 44 stitches on the needle. I personally think I would like it to be a little bit bigger when knitting a dishcloth. The one I made here, this is only 36 stitches across, and it's pretty small. You can see, if I compare it to my teacup. So if you like large dishcloths, I would go ahead and make it at least 50 across there. But again, it's personal preference and how quickly you want to finish your dishcloth. You can also make them coaster sized if you want to make a smaller project. But row 3 in the pattern is now where we start decreasing and taking up stitches. So we knit 1, we knit 2 together. Now this can be a little challenging if you're a really tight knitter because it's sometimes hard to get between 2 of those. But you take your needle, you come to the second one back and go through and just knit those together like it sounds. Wrap your yarn around and pull both of them off. So you see that you've just made 2 stitches in the previous row become 1 stitch in the next row. But if we don't put a yarn over here, then we won't have the same kind of hole. So we still do a yarn over, even though that will make it bigger. And so we do another knit 2 together. So by doing this, we have just increased by 1 stitch and decreased by 2. So the effect that we need of decreasing our stitches is going to be accomplished, as well as keeping the pattern looking the same. So now we just knit to the end of the row. Again, this is a decreasing row, the row 3 in the pattern. Knit 1, knit 2 together. I'll show you this closer if I can. Sometimes it's just kind of challenging to get that needle through there. Wrap your yarn around, pull through both stitches, take it off, yarn over, knit 2 together, this, and then knit to the end of the row. All right, and we do this until we have 6 stitches left. So I have 2, 4, 6, 10. So it's knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, and you can see how one of the threads went kind of back where it's not supposed to be. So I just straighten it and I keep knitting. Knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, and knit to the end of the row. So knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, and knit. All right, so I have 7 stitches on, so I knit 1 more row and then bind it off. And as you can see, I have a doll size dishcloth here. But again, I just wanted to show you from beginning to end how this project went. So again, this is knit 1, knit 2 together, yarn over, knit 2 together, knit. All right, now we're ready to bind off. So in this last row, again, remember, the only reason that it's this small is I didn't put 44 stitches on this row right here. So yours will not look like this if you follow the pattern. So to bind off this row, I knit 1, I knit 2 together, and now instead of knitting the next stitch, I go backward, pick up this first stitch, pull it through, and this sometimes can be a little hard. What I'm trying to do is to get it over this stitch. And now I take that off of the needle. So I put the back stitch over the front stitch there. So I bind that off and then I knit 2 together again. Again, I go back, grab the first stitch on the right needle, pull it up and over, that stitch. And now knit the last stitch. Pull it through, bind off, and now what I like to do at this point, you can go ahead and cut the working yarn. I'm just going to cut it back here. Don't want too long of a tail here. So what I'm going to do is now I have this loop, but there are 2 stitches hanging on there, and I don't want to let those fall off. So I reach through, show you that again. So I have this loop here, I cut my thread, and then I reach through, pull this string too, and tie it tight. So now, if you can imagine, if that were larger, you would have your dishcloth. All right, so I'm actually going to show you how to weave in the ends on the dishcloth that I had finished. I think it will be a little bit easier to see. So I take once I have the needle threaded, I just take it and follow what's already there to try to hide, camouflage the end that's being woven in. And again, I just try to go down through, mimicking the stitches that are previously there as much as I can. Doesn't have to be exact. Again, the great thing about learning on a dishcloth is if it's not perfect, it's okay. All right, so at that point, I'm going to just snip the end, and there, one end is woven in. I hope that you will enjoy getting started on this, and I will be available to answer questions in the Zoom call on Thursday. Happy knitting!